Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review as part of my 31 Horror Movies in May series. We have arrived at the last day of May here, and the last review is part of this series of in May here. So today we're going to go ahead and end this series with taking a look at a horror anthology. If you know me, it's probably not a huge surprise, but we're going to take a look at VHS, the first one from 2012 that I have here on Blu-ray. So yeah, watch VHS for the first time for this review. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Starting with the setup, then I'll kind of go through all the stories. Not going to go through the cast because there's way too many. And then I'll get into my review, which will be spoiler free as much as it can be. So I'll just tell you right off the bat. This is a very mixed bag for me. I was not a huge fan of this movie. But that being said, I can't say I despise it either. There was an, well, let's just go ahead and get into it. VHS is a 2012 American found footage horror anthology film created by Brad Miska and Bloody Disgusting. It features a series of found footage shorts written and directed by Adam Wingard, David Bruckner, Ty West, Glenn McQuaid, and Joe Swanberg, and the filmmaking collective Radio Silence. The film is presented as an anthology of short horror films, built into a framed narrative which acts as its own horror film. Each short film is linked together with the concepts of found footage. Each segment is from VHS tapes found in a room. So that's kind of the gist of it. So there's five separate stories, and then if you count the wraparound, I guess you could say six. There's a frame narrative, but really five stories off of that. Um, I'm just going to kind of go through each one, I think. Sorry, my eyes watering here. Um, I'm just going to kind of go through each one of them as far as the director and the writer, and then kind of tell you what it was about, and then yeah, and then eventually I'll get into my thoughts and review here. So the frame narrative or the framing story is entitled Tape 56. This was directed by Adam Wingard and written by Adam Wingard and Simon Barrett. So basically, you have these five um, bad guys. I don't know that they're I guess they're if they're criminals or not. They're certainly doing criminal kind of behavior. And you get some good shots of that the first 5 to 10 minutes of this film where they're basically pulling up a woman's shirt to expose her breasts, random, breaking windows, just causing all kinds of havoc. And they end up stumbling on this house. They were hired by somebody to find this VHS tape, and of course, there's more than one VHS tape in this house. It looks like an abandoned house, but there's a dead guy sitting in a chair in front of all these TV screens in there. So they don't really think much of it. So they go searching for this VHS tape, and then like one of the five guys puts in a VHS tape that's either like sitting right there to watch, or is I don't know if any of them were actually in there already. I think they put them in to watch them, and that ends up introducing us into our individual story. So the first one for that is entitled Amateur Night. Um, this was uh, this was directed by David Bruckner, written by David Bruckner and Nicholas Takaski. So this one's basically about three horny young guys that basically have a hotel room and they're trying to pick up women at this bar, and they do bring a couple of women back, and one of them is a little bit different, shall we say? So that's that. That's the gist. That's why obviously I'm not going to give too much away in any of these stories as I go through them because I don't want to give spoilers. The next one, the second one was entitled Second Honeymoon. This is a story about a young man and woman who apparently are on their honeymoon. They're going through like Arizona, the Grand Canyon, and that part of the country, and they're in a hotel room, and there's this weird stranger that asks some weird request first, and then somebody's broken into their room one night, and they're like rubbing a knife up against the wife's buttocks, I guess is the term for it, and then they dip a toothbrush in the toilet, and just really weird, creepy stuff. And then then you see more from the couple doing things the next day. Oh, one of the couples, or the woman of the couple, ends up having her fortune read by one of those kind of like a fortune teller, like cowboy style kind of thing, and it talks about how she'll be reunited with an old love kind of thing. So, but yeah, and so then it goes from there. I don't want to give too much away. Then the third short we have is Tuesday the 17th, and this is very much kind of a cabin in the woods kind of story where you have these. I think there's four or five teenagers, two girls and two or three guys, and they're going off into the woods here, and then one of them says that people have died here, and it's kind of a different. It's supposed to be kind of a slasher segment, but it's kind of a different one with as far as who the killer is and stuff, and they basically get picked off one by one. The fourth story is called "The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger," which you would have thought they could have shortened the title up just a bit there. This was directed by Joe Swanberg. Oh, Tuesday the 17th was directed by Glenn McQuaid and written by Glenn McQuaid. The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger was directed by Joe Swanberg and written by Simon Barrett. This one is just pretty much takes place. It's like a Skype chat or a computer chat between a man and a woman, apparently boyfriend girlfriend, and this girl has like a bump on underneath her skin here on her arm that she's picking at and stuff, and the guy's telling her not to do it. He's like a pre-med, I think he's like a doctor. But they live. It's like a long distance relationship. He lives far away from her or something, but he's going to come visit her in the next couple of weeks. Um, but they're talking at night, and all of a sudden she starts hearing noises around her apartment, and so she kind of takes the camera around and shows him what's going on or what she sees, if he can see anything. It's kind of one of those things, but the entire story is through the focus of this Skype call, if you will. And then the fifth and final short story is entitled 103198. This was directed by Radio Silence, written by Matt Benatelli Alpin and Tyler Gillett, Justin Martinez and Chad Villia, I guess. So yeah, this is one about these guys. I think there's three or four guys. I think three guys. They're going to this. It's Halloween night, and they're supposed to be going to this party, and they end up at the house, which they think is where the party is. And there's nobody down there, so they just kind of do their own thing for a while, and then they stumble on something going on upstairs, which is kind of disturbing. And they at first they just think it's part of the Halloween festivities, and then it kind of goes from there. So yeah, that's about as much as I want to say about that one. So yeah, that's the gist of these movies. And then the frame narrative. Actually, the frame narrative is wrapped up before the last short 103198. I don't want to say what happens, but again, it's hard with these not to give spoilers. But yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I was kind of disappointed in this movie, to be honest with you. Now, it's not a dumpster fire. There are things I liked about it, namely the fact that I liked 3 out of 5 of the shorts, and I thought they worked okay. That's a pretty good ball score, as opposed to just like in 1 or 2 out of 5. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I'll start with my pros. Unfortunately, I do have more cons than pros, which I don't like doing with my reviews, but I have to be honest. There are some genuinely scary moments and scary scenes sprinkled throughout this movie. There's no getting around that. There's definitely some scary stuff in here. And as I said, I liked 3 out of the 5 shorts. Those 3 shorts were kind of clever and they were scary and they were good and and they had interesting twists that I enjoyed and I thought played out pretty well. Um, so basically, the segments I liked were the first segment, not talking about the frame narrative here. The first segment entitled "Amateur Night" I liked. The fourth segment entitled "The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger." The only thing I didn't like about that one is that title that I have to keep saying. And then the final one, the 103198. Those are the three that I liked and I actually got some scares out of, some enjoyment in terms of twists and things like that. Um, so yeah, I really did enjoy those, and that's really what saved this from being a complete dumpster fire. I liked that the shorts. I will say I liked that the shorts kind of had a variety of subgenres. They weren't all slashers. They weren't all supernatural. They weren't all the same. You had they kind of have a variety of each. They have a creature, they have a slasher, a supernatural, a ghost, and like a sci-fi alien kind of deal. So that was good to see, and it was kind of fun to go through and watch different subgenres here. There's some pretty good directing and executing of a couple of the stories, the ones that I liked. Adam Wingard, especially, I think he's the one that stands out here in this of all the directors involved. I thought he was the one that did the best job. I like the aspects of things not being explained. I know that's one complaint I saw people say, but actually that doesn't bother me. Because to me, that just makes it scarier when you don't have all the answers. Like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? We don't know. That's why it's scary. And I think they do a fairly good job, at least in the segments that I like, with some of those things. So I did like that they didn't explain a whole lot. Okay, that's the end of my prose. Now I have to get into the rough stuff. Is now again, some of this stuff I should preference this by saying I recognize this isn't a horrible movie. Some of this is just personal, and I'll point that out as I go through it. The first con I have, I think this is kind of universal from what I've heard, and I certainly agree, is I think the movie's just too long. I don't think they needed to have five segments and then almost six when you throw in this framing story that they go back and forth. And actually, there's a good 10 or 15 minutes of the framing story before you even get to the first story. It's just, I think the movie's like it's almost 2 hours long, which for a horror anthology, I think is just too long. I would have cut out two stories, the two that I didn't mention in my prose there, as you could probably guess. At least one of them for sure, which I'll get into here. But yeah, I think this should have been a three short segment film along with the framing story. It was just I just thought it was too long. It dragged a bit at spots, especially in the middle. They just could have cut at least one of the shorts out, maybe two, in my opinion. Um, Plus, I know this isn't something I'm supposed to think about, but the idea of how these different stories got to be on VHS tapes really doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you just take the sick thing that happened to Emily when she was younger, the longest title ever, um, how the hell does a Skype chat on a computer get burned onto a VHS? Is Samara from The Ring involved here? Is she viewing it and then burning it into VHS tapes? I mean, there's another one with a pair of glasses, and other ones are like are cameras that people are holding, as you tend to see in found footage. It doesn't make any sense. And I know the answer is shut up and don't ask questions, but I'm sorry, I have to point it out. It's just something that bugs me. What can I say? How was it recorded, basically? Another big problem is none of the characters in this entire movie are likable, are good, believable, engaging at all. The worst is the framing story. These five despicable human beings here. But really, all the stories, when you get into them, the amateur night, you have the three horny guys, and none of them are particularly likable. They do some pretty seedy things and almost try to do a seedy thing. Second honeymoon, those I mean, right down the line here. The teenagers out in the woods. The I guess the two that were on the Skype call, if I had to pick one, I guess they weren't the worst of the bunch. That might be why I like that one a little bit more. The 103198. There's not really much character stuff going on there. So yeah, that was not helpful of this movie in my opinion. The five guys in the framing story, though, very obnoxious and despicable. And this is more of a personal side for me now, and this is a movie that really reiterated why I'm not crazy about the found footage subgenre of horror. As if you know my channel, if you've watched before, you know there's three that I like. I'm not going to mention what they are. Two of them I reviewed as part of this. Well, wait a minute. No, one of them I reviewed as part of this series. One I reviewed last October with Halloween 31, and the other one I have yet to watch and review for a series. It'll probably be in October, the end of this year. But it's just the shakiness of the shaky cam. Um, it's just all over the place. And in this movie, I thought it was even worse because then you also have the added aspects of the cutting out and the like the snowy screen with the VHS aspects of this movie that's taking place. And quite frankly, I almost got nauseous a couple times. I had to close my eyes for a few seconds. And again, I know this is probably just a me thing, but the constant cutting and the shaky cam, it was just really hard to get into, and it really took me a while. It was probably like the fourth story before I could really get into it and enjoy it. The framing story, especially, some of them were better than others. Like the one in the woods was bad. Amateur Night had its moments. Second Honeymoon had its moments. The sick thing that happened to Emily was probably one of the better ones, just because of the way it was perceived with being a Skype call. 10/31/98 was pretty rough, but by then I'd kind of gotten used to it. But yeah, it just kind of reiterates why I'm not the biggest found footage fan, and especially in this movie, just with all the running around and the then you throw in the VHS aspects of this movie with all the snowy cutting and everything. Just really didn't enjoy it because of that. It also wasn't the strongest wraparound story for me, mostly because of the characters, but also I felt like I kind of lost steam as it went on. Like initially with the dead guy in the chair and all these VHS tapes, I thought, wow, this could be interesting, but I don't know. Why are these guys randomly putting in movies when they're by themselves watching the old guy in this room where the other ones are downstairs searching for? It's just, again, it's one of those things you can't ask questions. You just got to go with it. But yeah, overall, it just wasn't, it just really lost steam for me. And it's definitely not one of the, I'm not going to say it's the worst framing story I've seen. I mean, it makes some sense with obviously the title of VHS and having VHS tapes that they're looking for. But I just thought that they kind of ran, I just thought it kind of went like this as the movie went on, basically. And I've seen better framing stories. I've seen worse. I guess it's okay, but I don't know. I wish it could have ended on a stronger note. I needed some better reasoning on why they were watching these VHS tapes. I didn't like the CGI that was particularly used in the third segment. And all I'm going to say is the word glitch. I don't want to say more than that, but it looked really bad. Very tropey, and that one's the most tropey of all these stories, too. The amateur acting is pretty bad for the most part. Now, again, I realize that it is amateur acting. A lot of these actors, actresses in here are not professional. Some of them are pretty good, but for the most part, there's a reason that they're amateurs. The second and third shorts were the ones that were forgettable to me. Second Honeymoon, that's the one I would have cut out for sure. If you're going to have four in the framing story, that's fine. But Amateur Night would have been the first on the, or I'm sorry, Second Honeymoon would have been the first on the chopping floor for me. They tried to put a twist into that one, but it really didn't work. It felt like it was tagged on at the end after they'd already developed this story. Because if you watch it and then the end happens, it just doesn't make any damn sense. And second, Tuesday the 17th is the other one that I would have cut out Amateur Night and Tuesday, or Second Honeymoon and Tuesday the 17th. Those two segments could go as far as I'm concerned. Second Honeymoon for sure. But Tuesday the 17th, I wouldn't have, I think it would have been stronger if you would have just had the first, the fourth, and the fifth. You probably could have completed a better framing story as well if you would have done that. So I just didn't like those two. Second segment was boring, and like I said, it was a tacked on twist. Third segment was cliche and tropey. It did have decent gore. That's why I'd keep that one over the second one. But really annoying characters and just kind of annoying watch. That was the hardest one to watch. By then, I think my eyes were bugged out enough where I couldn't actually get used to the last two. But yeah, I don't know, guys. That's what I have for VHS. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. And again, I could see watching this again, and that rating could go higher. I could see it going as high as 7.5. Maybe I just didn't work for the first time. Maybe I was expecting too much. I'm not really sure. I know there's a second one, a third one. There's VHS 2, there's Viral, and there's 94 now. I have VHS 2. I'm probably going to include that in my October series. I heard a lot of people like that one better, so hopefully we'll see. I think it's shorter, so that's already probably make it better. Viral, I haven't seen. I heard that one's not very good. 94 is on Shutter, I think. I haven't heard much about that one, but yeah, for the first VHS, not one of my favorite horror anthologies, and I'm not a big horror anthology fan, but when you give me no characters that I can grab onto, and you give me shaky found footage with a lot of glitches, no pun intended. It was a hard watch for me, but it is scary. There are definitely scary scenes, and that's why it's going to stay in my collection. I'm definitely going to give it some rewatches. So, but for right now, 6.5 out of 10. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know. Did you guys like VHS from 2012 a lot more than I did? Do you agree with me that it's not as good as the hype? Please comment down below. Let me know. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below. And please make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my great horror content, including the video that I'll have introducing my next series for June here. It'll be a great horror series. So stay tuned for that. But thank you for watching this review video. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Stay scared. Bye.